Jordan Binnington, is he out on Edmonton? Let's talk about it.
Hey, this is Brayden Chen. Subscribe to Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here in the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues is Jordan Binnington out on Edmonton. An injury made it to national media, and days off for the Blues, especially right now, are a very good thing. We have a lot to talk about on today's episode of Locked On Blues, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. So, there's been a lot of speculation about Jordan Binnington and Edmonton in a trade that would happen between Binnington and the Oilers, where the Blues would get Stuart Skinner and Edmonton would get Jordan Binnington. And those rumors really blew up after the last contest, where those Anaheim Ducks not only defeated the Blues, but a contest to where Jordan Binnington was pulled after only 10 minutes of play. Granted, goals went in, and Coach Montgomery just said, you know what, Binnington doesn't look the same. He doesn't look like he can finish out the game, and made the decision to pull him. Now, obviously, Binnington had a much different perspective on that. But again, at the end of the day, when you're a goalie, you're going in thinking you're going to play all 60 minutes. And when that doesn't happen and you only get about 10 minutes, yeah, it's going to be disappointing and shocking and upsetting. And all the emotions from both sides are completely valid. But rumor mill has been off the walls, and that is something that I talked about in yesterday's episode of Locked On Blues, because it seemed like since Binnington not only got pulled, but had some choice words that I can't say on this podcast to Coach Montgomery on the bench when he got pulled, people were like, you know what? This guy, get him off the team. And I think people fail to acknowledge how big of a competitor Jordan Binnington is. He has heart. He really does. And I know that some of you might look at him and say that he's emotional and he's dramatic. But at the end of the day, and just hear me out on this, he cares. He cares so much, not only about the team, but he cares so much about his own, personal goals. And he wants to be the best, right? Now, I can understand that if you're frustrated with Jordan Binnington, yeah, you know what? I get that, because I am frustrated too with some of the goals. They were completely unacceptable. But here's the other thing. If you were to trade Jordan Binnington right now, and I'm not just saying to Edmonton, and we'll get to this, but just to any team in the NHL, would you be able to confidently say that Jordan Binnington has the same value that he once held, maybe even a season ago? And I want you to think about that. I want you to take a moment and to think about the fact that Jordan Binnington's trade value might have gone down just a little bit based off of how the season has been going. It's so easy for you and I to blame the defense, right? And it's true, the defense isn't great. But at the same time, he let in goals this season that he normally doesn't let in, which is an indication to me that he may not be having his best personal season ever, and that we cannot continuously always blame the defenseman or the decisions made by Coach Montgomery. It also has to be put on Jordan Binnington just a little bit. I'm not saying all of it is on Jordan Binnington, but just, a little bit. And this is why it gets frustrating for me because I defend Jordan Binnington all the time on this podcast here in Locked On Blues, but I'm not. And when I mean not going to defend not so good hockey, I don't do that. I defend him because I believe that take this season away, I do believe that he's had such a great career so far and he's been, for the most part, consistent. And I think that some of the slander and the hate that he gets is for his attitude and not necessarily for his play. Okay? However, I do get a little bit concerned when in most recent games, I have seen Joel Hofer perform better in net. Now, I know Hofer hasn't had that good of a season. And again, two things can be true. Both of the goalies 100% have struggled this season and haven't been playing the way that you expected them to play. And you cannot deny that. That is a factual statement. But at the same time, I don't know if this would be the best time to trade Jordan Binnington just because he has been playing that great and the value of him probably has gone down. But this brings me to my initial point. It's about the Edmonton Oilers because that was a team that was heavily linked to Jordan Binnington. And I find this really interesting because Andy Strickland, who does the podcast, states to his knowledge, the Edmonton Oilers are on Jordan Binnington's no trade list. That to me is kind of shocking if we're going to be honest. I would think any Canadian team, anybody would go to usually because of how the market is in Canada. But isn't that so interesting that they're not on his no trade list? They're on his no trade list. So that means that Jordan Binnington would not want to be traded to Edmonton. And I think that is really surprising, like when you just really process that. And there's more development. Like when I'm telling you that this is an ongoing development of a story, I am not even making this up. So I'm going to read you the full quote from Andy Strickland from his podcast, and we're going to dive into some more analysis of what this all means. Quote, okay, so far from what I understand, Binnington has a limited no trade. There's a certain number of teams that are on that list. From what I understand, Edmonton's on the list of teams he wouldn't accept a trade to anyway. So, he's in his fifth season of 6 with his $36 million extension. He signed with the Blues back in 2021. And it also does include an 18-team no-trade list. But, right, I would also say at the same time, he probably made that list, back in 21. It's a little bit different now with how things are going with Edmonton. So I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's 100% out, but I definitely think that right now that you just can't say no. You can't say no to the possibility of that. So what do you think about this news that came out today that Jordan Binnington potentially has the Edmonton Oilers on his no trade list of 18 teams, by the way? So what other teams do you think are on that list? I can come up with a couple, probably the Buffalo Sabres. But that was supposed to be like a joke because like they're not a good hockey team. And then I'm like, wait, they're doing better than the Blues, I think. So yeah, bad timing on that one. But let me know who you think might be on that list or who may not be on that list. And do you think that Edmonton would still be a possibility? I find this whole situation to be quite intriguing because I haven't seen this much buzz over a potential trade in quite a while. Up next, I'm going to talk to you about an injury that made it to the national media, and I want to see if you think this is a little bit over dramatic. But first, my friends over at DripDrop. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, energy, mood, even my skin. That's why I've been using DripDrop. It's doctor developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. DripDrop isn't your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. I love using Drip Drop as a part of my daily routine. I'll mix a little packet before I go to the rink or before I film Locked on Blues. That way, it gets me up and going, and I'm out of any slump, and I feel like I can do my best. Right now, go to Right now, DripDrop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use code LOCKEDONNHL. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. And keep your body and mind performing at their best with DripDrop. We have talked about a lot of things on this podcast as of lately. And one of the things that we have talked about was the injury bug going around the Blues. I mean, we know that right now. Snuggy's going to have to get surgery. The Aussie Nathan Walker is going to have to get surgery. But we also have, well, not surgery. He's going to be out. That was just Snuggy. That's all we know. But another player that we have talked about with an injury that might be a little bit weird to some. And again, it's making national media. It is Alexey Toropchenko with those burns. And when I am telling you, the media outlets that have picked up on this, USA Today, Daily Mail, the AP, Fox News, the New York Times, NBC. Let's go see who else. Well, TSN. Yeah, like the hockey ones I'm expecting. But this is kind of insane. And one of the things that these news outlets are upset about is the silence from Coach Jim Montgomery on the matter. And reading some of these articles, you can tell that they don't really know much about what usually goes on between coaches and the media, because some of the articles were like, the coach, he should be more transparent about what exactly happened. Okay. Let's use our brain here. Okay? HIPAA. Well, I don't know if this counts as HIPAA, but what if he was cooking and spilled oil on himself, or I don't know. What if he was making a fire? I don't know. Not like arsonist, but he was making a fire pit. I think a lot of us, this is a burn I got when I was cooking the other day, literally yesterday, and it hurts my finger really badly. And I know it doesn't compare, but that was only a small amount. So just imagine how your leg must feel. And it is week to week. I mean, I've had burns before where I had to be hospitalized for them. Burns are pretty serious, actually, very serious. I'm getting a little off topic here, but the reason why I brought this up is it's so interesting to me to see that national media is willing to pick up a story about a player getting burns and is out week to week rather than literally anything else in the game of hockey. But I mean, this has put Alexei's name on the map, and it's going to draw a lot of attention for when he does return to the ice, which, in my opinion, for him is a good thing. Just because at the end of the day, he's a player that you usually see playing on the fourth line, sometimes third line. And it gives him maybe a little bit of incentive to play even better with all these people having their eyes on him. You see, I have been trying to find the positives when it comes to the injuries on this team. Not having a Snuggerud, that sucks. Not having a Nathan Walker, that sucks. And not having an Alexey Toropchenko, yeah, that sucks. And I think what makes it even worse is that a lot of us, we might think, well, you know what, Hale, this team probably wasn't going to do good anyways, but this just takes away more players that would have been able to make an impact. Matt Luff was, by the way, recalled from Springfield. I just got the email. And Doug Armstrong announced that the Blues have recalled forward Matt Luff from the AHL affiliate, the T-Birds. He has dressed in 17 games for the T-Birds this season, leading the team of 7 goals, which is honestly very good, and 14 points. Overall, he has 226 points, 94 goals, and 132 assists and 192 penalty minutes in his AHL career, which has been about 296 games. He has appeared in 106 NHL regular season games with the Kings, the Preds, and their Wings. Okay, you know what? That's fine. I mean, he was signed as a free agent this year, so that's fine. Like, having Tyler Tucker, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful because he did fine, actually, considering. But, like, having him play up or, like, it's different things like that that makes me very concerned about the team and how they're managing these injuries, right? Because right now, my number one concern is how are the Blues going to stay afloat despite everything that has been going on? And I'm sure that's a very fair response with all things considering, because at the end of the day, again, this is a team that evidently is going to struggle due to the fact that they have not only injuries, but also not so good of a season so far. So there's a lot that's going on with that. The practice lines were interesting today. It was, did I tell you guys that Kazumaki was called up? Okay. Anyways, the practice lines were a little bit interesting. And I don't know. I don't know how you guys are going to like it. And again, when I say this line, the reason why I say it was interesting, it's because of a player that wasn't practicing, but we'll get into that. All right, hold your breath and prepare to be annoyed. On the first line, it was Kessel filling in for Robert Thomas. So no, Matthew Kessel is not going to be the 1C. Thomas was not practicing today. Shen on the left and Neighbors on the right. On the second line, it is Suter centering with Holloway on the left and Kyrou on the right. Third line, Dvorsky centering, Kazumaki on the left and Bushi on the right. Finally, the fourth line, Sonny centering Mojo on the left and Bukestad. I feel like I haven't seen him in the lineup in forever. On the right. Anyways, defense. We have Broberg, Pareko, Folk, Tucker Folk. They switched that up. And Fowler, Mayu. And then Binnington, Hofer. Interesting. Right. I feel like this is very bad, if you want my opinion. I don't know, like, again, like, take it for how it is, but I'm not a fan of some of these moves at all. Ooh, what are we doing? We're in panic mode. I'm in panic mode. Well, we have the Boston Bruins tomorrow. I don't know why I said it like that. Maybe I'm channeling my inner WWE superstar, but we have the Bruins tomorrow, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about why these few days off are actually a good thing for the Blues, especially right now. But first, I want to talk to you about my friends over at FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defenseman tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update. As guys heat up, you can bet the next touchdown scorers, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit fanduel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Right now, it is the best possible time for the Blues to have a few days off before getting back into things, heading over to the East and visiting the Bruins. Yes, the Bruins, the same team that the Blues defeated in the Stanley Cup Finals. TD Garden, yes, the same arena where the Blues won Lord Stanley. I am saying that into the mic very loudly because I also want to remind you TD Garden, the arena where Jordan Binnington helped Team Canada win the Four Nations face-off. That was a lot of yelling. And I am yelling just to remind you all that there has been positives in recent times for the Blues. And a lot of it has to do with TD Garden. We love TD Garden here in St. Louis. I know I do. That building is very special to me, so shout out Bruins. But overall, I am so terrified about how this team is going to look. I don't like that Robert Thomas wasn't practicing today. Like, everything just makes me super apprehensive about the Blues this season to where I literally just need to. It's like I just need it to end, honestly. This is so stressful, but let's talk about those Bruins for a hot minute because they haven't been doing that awful. The Bruins 15, 13, and 0. And 0. Yep. Isn't that so weird? They have no OTLs. That's crazy. But they do have 30 points. They have lost a game in recent times to the Detroit Red Wings, but it was just a 4-5 loss, so nothing too crazy about that. I believe that every team in the East is actually at 500 and above. Can't say the same for the West. You know what's funny about the Atlantic? The Panthers, I know this has nothing to do with us really, but they are on a 3-game losing streak. And I just want to say, when you're at the top and you stay at the top, just like that, you can be back at the bottom. So maybe this gives us some hope, knowing that maybe not like this season for the Blues, obviously, but maybe next season, like things can turn around. Listen, I am so out of hope, but it's not so crazy though about the Panthers. I know we're focused on the Bruins, but the Bruins, what's interesting about them is they went on to tank mode last year, if you recall, and it was really, really, really bad hockey. And I have to say, this season, for whatever reason, they have been so much better. They have a lot of young talent, but it's so crazy to me, like how much a difference can make. But for the Blues, I mean, you have to look ahead, and I know that we're going to do a preview of the game tomorrow. So we're just kind of focusing right now on everything when it comes to the Blues and what's going on. But the Blues have a nice little 3-game road trip where it's the Bruins tomorrow. Saturday, it is in Ottawa. And then Sunday, it's in Montreal. Then next Tuesday, December 9th, they host the Bruins. can't say that we did good at home. We should have won game 6, but it's fine. Anyways, anyways, we then host the Bruins, and then we go back on the road to the Predators, and then back home for the Blackhawks. It's a lot of traveling. There's a lot of traveling going on. But I have good news. I have very good news. Maybe the Blues can pick up a point or two. And this is the time to do it. Like, in all honesty, like, I'm not trying to be like this negative, but you're playing a couple teams coming up soon that are in your conference, the Central. Why not figure out a way to pick up a couple points against them? I'm actually very negative. I am deeply concerned about this hockey team, but you know what? We'll figure it out. We always do, kind of, mostly. We don't play the Sharks for a while, which is actually a good thing. We do not play well against San Jose at all. We play them on March 6th, and March 26th and March 30th. Okay, wow, that's crazy. So all of our games against the Sharks are in March. Okay, good. Only because that's usually like an automatic L. The Blues suck against San Jose. All right. On that note, I will talk to you tomorrow. And like always, let's go Blues.